In order to substantiate their conviction that Weiss and Johnny Lamb's recent marriage is contrary to the teachings of the Bible, Suzy Lamb cites a biblical passage. Both divorce and remarriage are very personal and theological issues that not only elicit powerful emotions, but also provoke questions regarding the teachings of the Bible. In today's lesson, we will discuss these significant issues from a Christian perspective by utilizing the narrative of Dr. Doug. One example that can be used as a case study is the stormy marriage that took place between Weiss and Johnny Lamb, who was the widow of Marcus Lamb, who was the founder of Day Entertainment Network. When we take into consideration a scandal that occurred in the past, the scenario gets far more convoluted. The dissolution of Doug Weiss' marriage has not been the only factor that has contributed to the controversy surrounding this relationship. Johnny Lamb's previous testimony concerning the sanctity of marriage has also played a role. When it comes to her late husband Marcus Lamb, we are interested in learning the first grounds for a Christian divorce and the second circumstances under which remarriage is permissible. For the purpose of gaining an understanding of the disagreement, let us investigate this complex matter with grace and a biblical understanding. To accomplish this, we are going to have to go back in time to a challenging time in the history of the Lamb family that occurred many years ago. We had a difficult time in our marriage a few years ago, and I found out that Marcus was having an emotional relationship with someone, if you will, and that it had become an inappropriate one. Marcus Lamb came clean about having an affair, which was a betrayal that shattered their marriage. The day our community shares something with you is about how Marcus and I had a difficult time in our marriage. I am going to take this information at face value. Accountability, I need to apologize for the fact that I asked God to forgive me many years ago. I asked my dearly loved Joni, and when this first came out, I told her, honey, I only want us to stay together if we truly love one another. Not for the sake of the ministry, not even for the sake of our children, ladies. I want us to be together because I want us to love one another. Neither Joni nor the other person are to fault for what happened. Neither of them is to blame. I am very smitten with this lady. In order to keep their marriage together, Joni Lamb made the courageous choice to forgive Marcus and work through the betrayal that had occurred. She made it clear that she was passionate about the sanctity of marriage, and that she placed a higher value on reconciliation and restoration than she did on divorce. It was a dramatic demonstration of grace and dedication that matched the biblical concept in her choosing, which turned out to be a dramatic example. It is written in Malachi 2:16 that the Lord, the God of Israel, states that he abhors divorce. In addition, Jonathan Lamb brought up this time period in his parents' lives when he questioned why his mother would connect with a guy who, in his opinion, had no legal authority to divorce his wife. During the period that she was married to my father, she was undoubtedly one of the most powerful individuals in terms of the views and convictions that she held, making an effort to be married and doing whatever it takes to get it. On top of that, it is very evident that my mother endured a terrible, terrible affair with my father over a period of 7 years, if I am being accurate. According to the Bible, she had every right to end the marriage because of the adultery, but she chose to fight for it, which was a highly respectable choice, and it was apparent that God had blessed her. On multiple occasions, she made that decision. Therefore, it is disheartening to observe that she was in that position at the time, and to observe how she has changed her opinion about that. As we read in Matthew 1:9-6-9, Jesus brings to our attention the things that God has brought together. As a response to the Pharisees' inquiry regarding the reason that Moses allowed divorce, he prohibited the separation of any individuals. Jesus made it clear that Moses had granted your divorce because he took into account the adamant nature of your hearts, but this was not always the case from the beginning. The fact that God desires for married couples to be together is demonstrated by this. The decision that Joni Lamb made to marry a man named Dr. Doug Weiss, who had previously been divorced, has been met with criticism. Doug Weiss ended his relationship with his spouse. There are very few cases of abandonment, but one of them is biblical abandonment by a spouse who does not believe in God. It has been said by Lisa Weiss, there are several circumstances in which divorce is permitted, as mentioned in 1 Corinthians 7:15. Nevertheless, if the non-believer quits, they should be allowed to go. Despite the fact that a brother or sister is not legally bound in these circumstances, reports from others who are close to the case, such as Denise Boggs, show that Lisa sought reconciliation and that abandonment was not the legitimate basis for her actions. This makes things more complicated, if that is indeed the case. Despite the fact that they say that she left him as an excuse, the difficulty is that there were other grounds for their divorce that were not found in the Bible that were not identified. The ex-wife is currently managing his business, and he has additional tapes in which he claims that she was a devoted, decent wife and a beautiful mother for 30 or 36 years, but I'm not sure if he is entirely accurate in his statements. The terrible aspect is that she was pleading with him to stay with her and not leave while they had been together for over 30 years. As a result, when I overheard one woman pleading with this man to continue being his youth's wife, and another woman insisting, "No, he's mine," I was confused. As the shattering started, I thought to myself, despite the fact that I have never defied you before, this does not seem to be in accordance with your word. Consequently, I began consulting with pastors and conducting research. Both the Bible and Matthew are present in that place. JW and I were going to watch the Cowboys game on the day that Joni came over. It was Jonathan who was going to be there. I came to the realization at that moment that this is not the God that I follow. According to Matthew 199, someone should be considered guilty of adultery if they divorce their wife and marry another person, unless their wife had been unfaithful to him. You know, Doug is in Colorado, and his ex-wife had been pleading with him all day to choose her and reconcile. Joni said, expressing her anger, "You know everything Jan got back to me. Because of you, I want him even more. Demonstrate to me what a wonderful husband he will be." The Bible, specifically Matthew 199, does in fact include a list of other justified grounds for divorce. According to Jesus, everyone who seeks for divorce from his wife is guilty of adultery. People are debating whether Doug's divorce was caused by infidelity because another woman committed adultery. This is in addition to the fact that Doug's husband committed sexual immorality. In light of the fact that Joan's children, Jonathan and Suzy Lamb, have indicated that they do not accept the marriage, this is adding to the controversy, due to the fact that their beliefs are religiously informed. In the instance of Jonathan and Suzy, who claim that they were taken off of hosting a show on Dare TV because they refused to read a comment that supported Doug and Jan's marriage. Their position highlights the contradiction that exists between accepting their mother's choice and retaining their knowledge of biblical teachings. The fact that Jonathan and Suzy say that this incident further deteriorated their connection with their mother Joni is in contrast to the testimony that Jones had previously provided regarding the matters in question. Her decision to continue her marriage to Marcus Lamb and her new relationship with Doug Weiss has caused a great deal of unease among a significant number of members of the Christian community. As a consequence of this, we are now aware that the two biblical reasons for divorce are sexual immorality, as Jesus taught in Matthew 199, and abandonment, as Paul addressed in 1 Corinthians 7:15, if an unbelieving spouse is involved. Even though the Bible does not expressly address physical or sexual abuse as a cause for divorce, I would argue that remarriage after divorce is biblically permitted only if the divorce was established on solid grounds. This belief is based on the fact that the Bible does not specifically address the issue of divorce. Additionally, Romans 72:3 makes it quite evident that a widower has the scriptural right to remarry Joni Lamb. John Lamb is the widower. Doug Weiss is the subject of controversy due to the fact that his divorce from Lisa Weiss is still being fought, yet he is planning to remarry. In addition to the legalities of divorce and remarriage, race and responsibility, and the decision that Joni Lamb made to pardon Marcus Lamb for his adultery, the central theme of this story is the challenges that come with forgiving others. This served as a powerful picture of the love that God has for his people. On the other hand, this mindset has led many people to criticize her decision to marry a man who had previously been divorced and whose reasons for divorce are up for controversy. According to what we read in Genesis 2:24, marriage is a divine covenant, a holy manifestation of God's unwavering love for his people. This account encourages us to think that marriage is sacred at its core, because it is a divine covenant. This is the reason why a man must abandon a spiritual partnership that is made by God and sealed by his hand is what we refer to as a marriage. We are not merely referring to a social agreement or a formal contract here. On the other hand, we are individuals who reside in an imperfect world in which sin has destroyed every facet of our life, including marriage as an option. You may be aware of how agonizing a broken marriage can be, the agony of betrayal, desertion, or even mistreatment as public figures. Some of you who are watching today are aware of this. The decisions that Doug Weiss and Joni Lamb made are significant because they serve as a reminder of how important it is to live in a manner that exemplifies the truth that God has revealed and does not cause other people to fall. The narrative of their marriage is more than simply a headline if you are contemplating getting a divorce or getting remarried. In other words, it is a mirror that reflects the complexities of life. For the sake of love and faith, you should look into the Bible. As the verse in Joel 213 tells us, we should go back to the Lord, our God, for he is kind and compassionate, slow to wrath, and abundant in love. God's love and knowledge are always ready to guide you, regardless of the situations you find yourself in. Seek the counsel of intelligent people and pray earnestly for the wisdom of God. It is important to keep in mind that our God is a God of faith, grace, and redemption. During the time that you are watching, please like, share, and subscribe for additional biblical insights.